Welcome to the Surrealist McCoy. I'm your host, Ruffin. And today, in honor of Star Wars Day, May the 4th, I wanted to make a video about Star Wars.
The Surrealist McCoy.
So, first I want to talk about my fandom with the Star Wars movies. Basically, after the sequel trilogy came out, I kind of got a little burnt out, and everybody was really hyped about Mandalorian, and I just didn't feel like watching it, and so I kind of quit after a couple episodes. I was just, man, like after the sequels, I was like, man. So a few years go by, and I'm on YouTube looking at Mike's book reviews. I'll leave a link in the description, but it was a video about the Thrawn trilogy, and I was kind of like, that's cool. And basically these Legends books that came out before Disney took over everything, and that was kind of fascinating to me. And I used to see those books in the library when I was a little kid and stuff, and it's just a whole thing, that the expanded universe. And I was like, wow, what is this? And so I looked into it, and there's a whole thing after the Empire is finally defeated. There's another alien race that comes in from another galaxy, and they have organic weapons and things. It's just really cool hearing about all this stuff. And so I started reading the Thrawn trilogy, and I'm halfway through the second book now, so I'm like kind of a slow reader. I get very distracted, but I got back into Star Wars. I really like that book, and I'm kind of liking where it's going. I kind of want to get to those books that are about the aliens from the other galaxy. I think that's kind of my main goal. I'm trying to just read all the necessary books to get to that point. I noticed there were, like on Facebook, it shows you what you posted like years past, and I was like, on May the 4th, I would always write this little snarky thing about Star Wars. And this year, I really like Star Wars again, so there was a Star Wars Day celebration where I live, and it was in the park, and they had a silent disco where you listen to music, and we brought lightsabers, and my fiance and I were fighting with lightsabers while we were listening to the music. And they had a little fight that they did and on stage, and it wasn't very good. It was kind of like we were kind of waiting for it, and then it came, and then it was like 2 minutes. So I was like, I don't know. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. And yeah, there was a guy dressed up as Kylo Ren, and it was just cool. Like, I'm like, wow, this is a real holiday now. You got these celebrations that are being done by like a town government or whatever. So, so anyways, now I'm going to get into my ranking. So I'm ranking the 11, feature films. Not going to do any of the Disney Plus stuff or any kind of animated, anything like that. Let me know in the comments what's your ranking with the 11 movies, if you've seen all of them. But top 5, top 3, whatever you want to do, hit me up in the comments. So, number 11 is Episode 9, Rise of Skywalker. So this one is just way too goofy. It's kind of similar to Avengers Endgame, where it just feels very contrived, like all the stuff they're doing, and they got to go over here and do this and go over there and do that. And it feels like it's not a story that is happening. It's like it's like they got to jump through a lot of hoops to get to where they need to be, and it kind of exhausts you. And I just feel like they could have trimmed this down. And yeah, I feel that way about Avengers Endgame too. Where it's just, I feel that one is a little overrated in my opinion. But yeah, some of the better ones on this list, it's like the story is like happening to the characters. This one, it's like they have to do like chores to have the movie go along. Anyway, it could all be summed up in somehow Palpatine returned. So number 10 is Rogue One. I know a lot of people really like this one. In my opinion, overrated. I mean, overrated just means I don't think it's as good as everyone says it is. But I just couldn't really connect to the characters in this one. I like the Ip Man guy and his friend, and where he's going, I'm one with the Force is with me. I almost wish the movie was about those two guys. It's like those two guys had a lot of heart, and I feel like the rest of the movie didn't have it for me. The one droid is kind of annoying to me, and I just didn't really connect with, Mads Mikkelsen and Forrest Whitaker and the main character. It just didn't do it for me. So number 9 is Episode 2, Attack of the Clones. Don't you know Yoda from Attack of the Clones? This is the worst of the prequels, in my opinion. The prequels, they all have this problem of there's really good actors in it, but something's going on with the script and the directing and then the editing that's making them seem like they're bad actors. I don't know what went wrong there, but yeah, Anakin is horrible in this movie. This is like the worst portrayal of Anakin, the whole thing. He's, and it's just a real slog to get through. Just not very fun to like turn it back. I always like turn this one on and then I'm like, eesh, I don't like it. There are cool things in it though. I remember when it first came out, Yoda, he does his green lightsaber and he starts fighting Christopher Lee, Dracula, Saruman. He's fighting Yoda with lightsabers and stuff. So you gotta admit that's pretty cool. I thought that was goofy when it first came out. But at the same time, it's like, it's tongue in cheek. Like, it's all for fun anyway. And you got Mace Windu with his purple lightsaber and cutting off Jango Fett's head. And I just love the story of the purple lightsaber where he's like, oh, can it be purple? And George Lucas is like, yeah, it could be purple. So yeah, the Yoda stuff, and there's some like action things that bump it up a couple spots, but it's not good. My number 8 Star Wars movie is Solo. So this one is kind of like Rogue One, where I feel like, are people really asking for this story to be told? It's like a prequel, but not the main prequels. And like Rogue One, but I feel like I had a little bit more fun with this one than Rogue One. You got Donald Glover, you got Woody Harrelson, Emilia Clarke, Silas from Da Vinci Code, don't know his name. It's a great cast. I think the guy that plays Han is actually pretty good. He's not doing a Harrison Ford voice. I think he's doing his own thing, and I think, he doesn't get enough credit for that. But, I don't love it. I don't hate it. It's just kind of middle of the road. It's fine. All right, so my number 7 is The Last Jedi. I really did not like this one when it first came out. Just the stuff they did with Luke's character, and then Finn and Rose going to the Las Vegas planet, gambling planet, and then it's like the slow chase format of the movie. And it was kind of my mentality at the time, honestly, but with divisive franchise movies, sometimes what can help me is, okay, I'm putting this in a different parallel universe. Because with the Halloween movies, there's so many timelines, and I could keep it straight up here. I know what all the timelines are. So when I watch a different Halloween sequel or something, I'm like, this is fine. So once I make Last Jedi into a slightly different universe, I start liking it a lot more. I like Luke's story in this. It's different. It went like a different way. He went into the darkness. In Return of the Jedi, Luke is pretty dark. I mean, he's using his anger and his hatred. So I just feel like, man, in this universe, Luke went down a little dark path. But I just feel like Kylo Ren and Rey, this is just a good progression of their story. And I feel like their stuff is the best stuff in the sequels. And just that scene where they're fighting all the red dudes is like really cool. The bad stuff in this movie could have been redeemed in the third one, or episode 9. But obviously we see what happened with that. All right, my number 6 is The Phantom Menace, episode 1. This movie has problems. It's got the boring politics, and it's like, okay, Star Wars is going in a weird direction now because it's got these weird like Senate hearings and these things that were never a part of the original trilogy. And I distinctly remember I went when I was 9 years old. I went to the midnight showing. My aunt took me, and I distinctly remember the whole theater being very quiet. And then at the end, when Obi-Wan slices Darth Maul in half, the whole theater cheered. But that just tells me something about okay, we're trying to get through this boring movie, and then something happens that we liked at the end. So obviously this movie has problems, but the hype was so real on this. If you go back in time, it was everywhere before this came out. It was like soda cans and toys and a million video games, and then the theater experience of seeing the pod race and Darth Maul, especially when he lights like the second lightsaber, and it's like, so, there's certain things that you can't take away from this movie that you have to admit are awesome. And yes, it is very tied in with nostalgia. But yeah, that's my number 6. Okay, so my number 5 is going to be Revenge of the Sith, Episode 3. So this one, it has all the same problems as the other prequel movies, but this one is like the final culmination of Anakin, and he's going full Vader. All the Jedis get killed, or most of them. Yes, it has all the same problems, the acting, the writing, blah, blah, blah. The green screens are everywhere. But because of the escalation of the plot and everything, it's like it almost distracts you. And I do think it's a little tighter anyway. I just feel like this is just a better movie than episode 1 and 2. The Emperor is awesome in this. He's got that scene where he's telling Anakin about Darth Plagueis the Wise. And then he's slowly he's so powerful with the dark side that, Anakin can't even help himself. He's like, I feel like he's getting into his brain. And I just love that whole part. And then there's this one part I rewind with him, with the Emperor and Mace Windu. And he's like, no. And then Mace Windu's like, and he's like, you are the traitor. And I don't know, something about this part, I just rewind like so many times. And then obviously Darth Vader at the end, no, which I hated. I think this was like 2005 when this came out. And I still don't like that part, but now it's just like funny, kind of. And of course, at the end, you got Yoda flipping around doing crazy stuff. You got the lava planet lightsaber duels, probably like top 3 lightsaber duels. But yeah, this, in my opinion, is the best of the prequel trilogy, Revenge of the Sith. Okie dokie, we got number 4. It's going to be episode 7, The Force Awakens. This one is the best out of the sequel trilogy. And again, this is very similar to Phantom Menace, where the hype was very real leading up to this. I was online, I was looking at news and rumors and like, what's going to be, who's going to be in it, and what's this about? Like, who's the villain now? This was like an emotional experience for me watching this. I mean, I had never waited for Star Wars for very long since I first got hooked. And I'll get into that a little bit later. But, I waited from 2005 to 2013? Can't remember. This was really awesome seeing this in the theater. And I don't really care that it's like a soft reboot where the Starkiller base is the same thing as the Death Star. And I just don't really care about that type of stuff. And when people complain about Hollywood, oh, they're not original. How many times have we told the story of Hercules? Or these things are like mythology, and it's like, wow, they made a similar movie. It's like, you just throw a dart into Hollywood, you're gonna hit like a bunch of movies that tell the same thing. So Star Wars is allowed to copy itself, in my opinion. But I think it did the instant camaraderie kind of team building type of stuff that the original does, and like Guardians of the Galaxy, I think The Force Awakens does that very well too, with Finn, Poe, Rey, Han Solo, and Chewbacca. I really like the decision to kill off Han Solo, and I love the cliffhanger at the end. I mean, those are things that maybe people don't like, but I just think I like that they went for it with that stuff. Yeah, at the end with Luke, Luke's not even in it. I mean, I was disappointed that Luke wasn't really in it, but at the end, you're like, oh, where's this going to go? And that's kind of the story of Force Awakens, is like the potential that this had for the other 2 movies, and then it was just squandered. All right, we're getting down to the top 3 now. We're in the original trilogy now. It's really hard to put these in order of like ranking. But my number 3 is A New Hope, episode 4. or as I like to call it, Star Wars. It's Star Wars, come on. I first saw these movies when I was 7 years old with the special editions that were coming out in theaters. George Lucas was first starting to mess with his old movies and put all this extra stuff in them. Again, my aunt took me to see these. Shout out to Aunt Amy. And I remember it's just, these movies were like, there's these certain books or movies that hit me as a kid, and these characters show you that, oh, maybe I can do something special. Maybe I can do something meaningful. So you got like Harry Potter, Frodo, Neo from the Matrix, and Luke. And for me, this is the first movie that did that, or first book or whatever, was Luke. And you know, all these type of characters, they are just normal, they're having their everyday life, and they get swept away on this adventure. And so this is the first time I really saw a movie, and it was like, I was so excited after I saw it. So that's my number 3. So my number 2 is a lot of people's number 1, but I'm going with Empire Strikes Back. So this is a perfect movie, but I just have one that is my favorite. And my favorite is not a perfect movie. So if we're going, you know, what normally people say Empire Strikes Back is number 1, I totally understand what they're saying. Kind of tied with A New Hope, but you know, this one has Yoda, and all those scenes with Yoda, with the training, and he drops these like knowledge bombs, and I know that they've helped a lot of people because they've helped me. You know, where he says, "Do or do not. There is no try." And my follow-up on that is, trying is more of a thing you do over time. So whether if you're trying to practice skateboarding or yoga or something, yes, you will continually try. I mean, yes, he's saying you're failing. There's a little more nuance to it than that. Yes, you could continually try. Get off on a tangent there. But the other one is when Luke says, "I don't believe it." And then Yoda's like, "That is why you failed." So yeah, believe in yourself. Got a lot of great lines in here. Obviously, "I am your father." You got, "I love you, I know." You got all these great parts. It's just not my favorite. Just eking that one out is my number 1, Return of the Jedi. And if I got to boil it down to one word, it would be Ewoks. You know, it's funny, I never really knew that people didn't like Ewoks until like much later. I never really had a problem with them. I mean, I love them. I think they're hilarious, especially with C-3PO. He's like, "Ooh, ooh." And it's similar to Revenge of the Sith, where, you know, the stuff is hitting the fan, and so it heightens the drama and the action, and it's just super epic. And it has that big happy ending at the end. I just rewatched this the most ever since, like I was 7. I had the VHSs, and the Return of the Jedi one, that got worn out because I just wanted to watch this one the most. You know, I thought Luke was really cool. He's got the black outfit, the green lightsaber, you know, ooh. And then there's that scene where Darth Vader, he's really impressed that he could make a green one. But yeah, you got Jabba the Hutt, he's like nasty and awesome, and Princess Leia getting rid of him. And I love this scene where Yoda dies, and then that goes into Luke's conversation with Obi-Wan as a Force ghost, and it's just got a lot of great stuff in it. But yeah, just simply because I watch it the most. Yeah, the original trilogy, they're all kind of tied, but this is my favorite. This is my number 1. So let me know if you got your own list in the comments, or if you disagree with any of my points. Just let me know. It's always good to hear things from a different point of view.
A certain point of view